right, 20 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. I think if you're an elected official, your main job is about money. I really think so. You're either passing a law to increase the tax, to decrease the tax, or you're figuring out a way how to spend that money that was collected in the form of tax, right?
Exactly.
And I'm not necessarily bad-mouthing that whole process. Obviously, we need streets, and we need people to pave those streets, and those people need to get paid. We need police departments, and we need police officers, and they need to be paid. So I'm not necessarily having an issue with it. But sometimes if you are, trying to figure out what to do with your investments and stuff, it makes sense to pay attention to some of this stuff going on. Chris Macke might be somebody who we could ask advice from. He is on the phone right now. He is an investment strategist, and he's the founder of Solutionomics, and he's going to talk about that. Now, it's described in my notes as a nonpartisan platform dedicated to introducing and influencing legislative efforts with innovative solutions for new corporate tax, global trade, and the United States financial system policies. So this does have to do with those people who we elect or have been elected on in spite of our efforts, who will make changes to the taxes, whether it's right here in our own city, in our own county, or in the whole country. Chris Macke, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
And where are you calling from?
I'm actually based in Los Angeles.
Well, thank you for getting up early.
It's my pleasure. Happy to do it.
Yeah. All right. So tell me, first of all, can we talk a little bit about what the president is doing right now? How is that going to affect the rest of us?
Happy to. I want to first give credit to the Republicans for trying to tackle our tax code. That is a bold endeavor. However, they're calling it reform, but reform implies change, and what we're really getting is more of the same. And here's what I mean, and that is that under the current proposal, companies closing plants in the U.S. and sending jobs overseas would still get the same tax cut as a company creating American jobs. And if the goal of corporate tax cuts is to create jobs, what we need instead is to tie each company's rate to each company's tax rate to each company's rate of job creation. That would be real tax reform.
Yeah, the argument about corporate taxes in general is that you're never really taxing the corporation. You're taxing the consumer. Ultimately, it trickles down. So no matter how much you charge them, the chamber of chamber of the board, the board,
the board of directors,
they're going to still want to have a profit to show their investors, and the only way they get that, if there's a big tax, is to get it from the consumer.
Well, but that's a different issue because we're missing the first step, which is let's make sure that whatever we set the tax rate at, whatever that is, let's make sure that the companies that are creating the jobs are paying the lower tax rate. If we can move the discussion to that would be significant reform. And then we can talk about some of the other issues that we mentioned. But we've got to start with tying each company's tax rate to their rate of job creation and their wages relative to their competitors.
So theoretically, then, would a company that decides to use robots instead of humans, for example, I go to McDonald's now and I can order my food on a little kiosk. So the girl behind the counter isn't necessary anymore. So let's say she's one person out of a job. Do they get a higher tax now?
What I would say a little bit differently, I would say the company that instead maintains the employee and actually increases employees, they would get a lower tax. So the other thing about the plan that was put out by the Republicans is they're proposing what's called immediate and 100% deductibility of capital expenses. So like that machine you just mentioned. Well, if the purpose is job creation, why are we giving greater tax breaks to replacing people with equipment as opposed to hiring people? So that's another area where I would change the plan and instead give an incentive to maintain and increase employment rather than to increase the machines.
Is there a way in Solutionomics? Is there a way to work with whatever is going on so that we, as investors, in the end, have made good investments?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding the question.
All right, what I'm asking is that let's say Hillary was the president. Let's say anybody is the president. Regardless, is there information that we can use, for example, in Solutionomics, that regardless of what Congress or the president does, we can still come out ahead with our investments?
Absolutely, and the first thing is to understand that what Congress and the President does will impact the investments. But yes, the fundamental thing is to look at each company individually and see, are they increasing their revenues? Are they increasing their profits? After that, then you look at the after-tax. But before that, it comes down first to their revenues and their profits. So yes, there is. It's kind of a multi-layered approach.
So then there will be more jobs and higher wages?
If we were, well, here's what I can tell you. Under the current proposal, the only thing that we know is that there would be higher after-tax profits. That's all that's guaranteed. We don't know there's going to be more jobs. We don't know there's going to be more wages.
Oh.
If you instead take, because that's all they're doing is they're lowering the corporate tax cut and corporate tax rates, and they're hoping for more jobs and more wages. Now, here's the interesting thing, too. If you're a company and they come to you and say, look, I'm going to decrease your tax rate whether or not you hire more people, you can actually close down shop here in the U.S., send jobs overseas, and have the confidence that you're going to get the same lower tax rate as a company creating jobs. Now, that is not a good investment approach to tax policy. Instead, what you would say is, look, for the companies that are creating the jobs, we're going to lower your tax rate. For those that don't, they won't. So it really is a no jobs, no tax cuts approach. And what it also does, by eliminating the tax cuts for the companies sending jobs overseas, which siphons tax cuts from the job creators, you actually have more tax cuts left over to give bigger tax cuts to the job creators, which creates more of an incentive.
Did we see something similar under Reagan?
No. Broadly speaking, for the last 30 years, we have had what I call a hope-based tax policy or tax code, which is you lower the corporate tax rate and you hope that jobs are created. Now, there is another way to do this, which is that you can still use lower tax rates to try and stimulate job growth. But what you do is you also make sure that you only get lower tax rates if you get greater job creation. Again, it's an ROI or kind of an investment-based approach to tax policy rather than a hope-based approach.
Gotcha. Okay. So how do we learn more about what you have to offer? Is there a book?
Not a book currently. That's in process, but there is a website that has a lot of these ideas. It is solutionomics.org. That's .org.
Okay. And
Solutionomics is spelled SOLUTIONOMICS. So solutionomics.org.
All right, absolutely some food for thought. Chris Mack, thank you for taking time out of your day, for getting up early on the West Coast, and for talking to us for this time.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right, so the website again, solutionomics.org. We are up against the break. Let's take that break, and we will be right back.